Kitchen at Enlightened Next with myself, Katherine Miller, and my cameraman. And some of you may know about us through coming to retreats here, and we have a reputation for very good vegetarian food. But one of the things we have a bad reputation for is not providing recipes to anyone when they ask for them. So tonight we're going to break that awful tradition, and we're going to provide everyone with one of our best recipes, and it's a dessert recipe. So I have a little story to tell you, and then I'll show you how we're going to make this dessert. 10 years ago or so, we used to make one of the most amazing chocolate mousses you can imagine. It was made with heavy cream, organic eggs, and organic sugar. And it was one of the best chocolate mousses I'd ever tasted. And one of my friends, when he tasted, said, "This is like having angels in your mouth." So that was one of our best desserts because it was all organic. But what we found out a few years later was that you could actually make the same dessert, but instead of it being something you felt guilty about indulging in, it could actually be a food, like a power food. So today we're going to make this dessert, this chocolate mousse, but it's not going to have any of the ingredients I just mentioned. And it's going to have the same effect when you eat it, which is like you have angels in your mouth. So the first thing we're going to use are cashews. Now these cashews have been soaked overnight. This is going to replace the dairy in the recipe. The second ingredient is avocado, and the avocado is going to replace the egg in the recipe. This is what's going to make this recipe very light. And then after that we're going to use chocolate powder, which seems normal enough, except this is raw cocoa powder. So you can use regular cocoa powder if you want to, but the raw is fantastic. And if you do that, then the whole recipe will be raw. Key limes. I've come to really love key limes because they're tart and sweet, so they're really good for desserts. We're going to use about 1.5 tablespoons of key lime juice. Coconut oil, another really good fat. That's going to help set the whole mousse. And then instead of sugar, we'll use whole dates that have been pitted, and we'll use agave syrup, which has a very low glycemic index, which means it's not going to give you a sugar rush. And then we'll use some really good salt and a little peppermint oil that will just lift the whole thing. And that makes this a really good summer chocolate mousse. So the way we're going to start this, we're going to use our super blender, which is a Vitamix blender. If you just have a regular household blender, you'll do this the same way, but you'll add a little bit more water. So I'm going to start with 3/4 cups of water. So if you're using a regular kitchen blender, use 1 cup of water. We have 1 cup of soaked cashews. We have 1/2 cup of avocados. We'll use 3 tablespoons of raw cocoa powder. 1.5 tablespoons of lime juice, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, about 4 tablespoons of pitted dates, which is about 4 pitted dates, and then we'll use 4 tablespoons of agave syrup. About 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and just a tiny, maybe like 2 drops of peppermint oil. You can always add more, but if you put too much in, it can be really bad. There we go. So the reason you add the water first in the blender is because that helps to keep everything from getting stuck in the bottom of the blender. Alright, so it's going to make a lot of noise for a moment. You start out on low, and you work your way up to the high. you're using a home blender, you might have to use a spatula like this to just stir it up while it's blending, being careful not to get caught in blades. If you have a Vitamix, it's not really a problem because it's so strong that it already releases a lot of air into it. You'll know when it has enough air mixed into it because it turns very light in color, lighter than it does when it's first starting to blend. All right, so now the trick to making this really wonderful, because you'll want to eat it right away out of the blender, is to actually wait and chill it for at least 1 or 2 hours, and that'll bring all the flavors together, and it'll help the peppermint oil to infuse the whole mixture. So we're going to put this into a really nice dessert glass. So here we have some beautiful chocolate mint from our garden, and a nice champagne glass. And what you do is you carefully ladle this into the glass, and depending on what you'll be serving this with, a meal or not, you can decide how large you want these to be. You can get 4 to 8 servings out of this, depending on how hungry you are. All right. This is what it'll look like in the end. You just let that chill for 2 hours, and there you have it.